There's no denying it. I love Survivor. Sure, Big Brother may have been my first true reality TV obsession, mainly because I'd consider Total Drama a cartoon, which, interesting thing, I just heard recently that Total Drama's been renewed for 2 seasons, which is kind of surprising because it's been off the air for years. Maybe I'll make a video about that, I don't know. But anyways, Survivor is a very close behind, and lately I've been talking more about Survivor, so it gives the illusion that it is my favorite show. But in actuality, it isn't my very favorite show. There's just something more accessible about Survivor and Amazing Race than Big Brother. You know, the seasons are shorter, so it's less of a commitment. That being said, I hate Survivor. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of the newer seasons. Why? Hey, is this the new season of Survivor? What's that? 3 tribes? But that's not the only problem. There's a lot of big oopsies the show has been making recently, in my opinion, and I'm not necessarily we should make it like how it was in the beginning show's run, but yes, I think we should make it exactly like how it was in the beginning. That being said, I don't necessarily think seasons I adore, like the Outback or Marquesas, should be the golden standard either. If Survivor could meet us somewhere in the middle, I'd be a happy castaway. Anyways, let's get on with the grievances, because if 9th grade civics has taught me anything, if you want change, you have to list grievances first. One thing that sticks out like a sore thumb with Modern Survivor is that every season tends to have a theme, and not just like a main idea of the season, no, a theme so overpowering that it hijacked the title and casting choices of the season. Let's just take a look at some of the recent themes. We have blood versus water, which I still don't understand. Is it like everyone on the season is related to someone else? Is it half returning players, half their family members because for some reason Aris is back? Next we got Worlds Apart, which never sounded like a good idea to me. Something about classifying the contestants by their social class sounds kind of offensive if you ask me. They sort of tried this again with David and Goliath, but this time they did the theme way better because they didn't put a label on as to why the Davids were Davids and the Goliaths were Goliaths. They let the contestants tell their own story. Millennials versus Gen X, because if that CBS Viacom was playing with fire when they typecasted contestants by income level, get ready for, hey, we picked you because we love watching older people bickering with younger people. Like, I get it, it's about this sort of cultural disconnect and divide between the generations, but we don't need a reminder of that. Although in a few years I wouldn't be surprised if they rebooted the theme with Survivor Boomers versus Zoomers. The thing is, so many seasons lately have become oversaturated with their theme that it sort of has become a novelty. Look at Survivor Amazon. I think this is the best example of how a theme season should be. The tribes were initially divided by gender. It changed how the game was played and it fit the location. Besides that, the theme took a back seat and it felt like good old classic Survivor, and I should note that they did this again in Vanuatu, but I haven't seen that season yet, and I don't think that there was, like, a theme to that. It was just like, okay, let's put them into, you know, groups by gender. With the Amazon, if you watch the season, it, like, fits in with, like, the whole theme of the season. My jaw hit the floor when I discovered that the past several seasons were all filmed in Fiji. It defeats the whole purpose of the show, if you ask me. It's now essentially just Big Brother Fiji, and they're always outside. This, I believe, is at least a direct link to the past grievance because other theme seasons, such as Redemption Island, Blood vs. Water, and Worlds Apart, were all filmed in Nicaragua, so it really just comes down to the producers having sort of run out of ideas. Now, that being said, Classic Survivor is guilty of this too. Between seasons 7 and 12, 3 of them were all filmed in Panama, Pearl Islands, All-Stars, and Exile Island. And I understand that over the years, Survivor has built up good relations with Fiji and whatnot, but one of the things that appealed to me about Classic Survivor was how they were always in a new place every season, new terrains occasionally, but even with similar appearances of locations such as Borneo, Marquesas, and Thailand, there's still a slight change in scenery that I appreciated a lot. Now, this is a much smaller complaint that I have. I bet that when I get to the seasons with more contestants, like the casts of 18 to 20, I bet I will like those seasons just fine. It's just that the 16 worked so, that number 16 just works so well with the classic age. It's more of a, I'll be thrown off by the sudden change when I get to the later seasons because the tribes will be more packed and the process of the jury system might be a smidge different. Also, it's worth pointing out that the cast of 16 also applies to like the first half of the classic age. The cast's got an upgrade starting with season 8 and also Dear Survivor Fiji. Why on God's green earth do you have 19 contestants? I know it's part of the whole haves, have-nots twist, but that number still messes with me a great deal. In the classic Age of Survivor, there were a lot of different competitions that were staples and came back almost every season. Some of them, certain elements were tweaked to fit with the location, but no two comps were changed the least as the food auction and Fallen Comrades. Exhibit A, the food auction. In the beginning of the show, this happened around the final 6 or 7, and each of the contestants got a ration of money that they could use to bid for food items. This first appeared in the Australian outback, and starting with Survivor Amazon, non-food items were incorporated, such as a personal mattress or letters from home. But the downfall of this competition was starting in the later seasons, when contestants could now bid for advantages and idols. Now everyone wanted to save up for those, and the food became, well, chopped liver, no pun intended. Actually, you know what, pun intended. Having advantages like that defeats the entire purpose of the competition. Nobody watched the food auction to see who won, because everyone was a winner. It was a break from the game, until advantages breached themselves into that little vacation, and now because of that, they rarely happen anymore, sadly. Exhibit B, Fallen Comrades. This was a much more short-lived comp, but in the 4 seasons that it appeared in, it was a big hit. It was one of the last immunity comps from Borneo to Marquesas, being the final 4 immunity in Borneo, Africa, and Marquesas, and the final 3 immunity comp in the Outback. The comp began its controversy, however, in Africa when there was a production flub. One of the questions was about what eliminated contestant has a body piercing, which could have actually had multiple different correct answers, but production decided to only give it one, screwing Big Tom's shot at the million. Finally, it was flat out broken by Vesepia the following season when she used her notebook to document everything she's learned about her competitors, giving her an extra leg up on the challenge. And if you ask me, that's not really cheating. I mean, most people don't think it is. It's just kind of hacking the game. I think it was brilliant. After this, they never really had the competition again until Blood vs. Water, which is kind of confusing. And they no longer allow contestants to bring writing materials on the show. I don't want to go any further on this topic, though, because it would eat into the next segment, the solutions to each of my grievances that I have listed. See, Survivor does need themes. Don't get the idea that I'm anti-theme. A season of Big Brother wouldn't be the same without its usual twists and turns, but I propose a system to determine whether a theme is fit for a season. If it's big enough that the producers are thinking of naming the entire season after it, it's too big. It's gotta be something that can't really be put into words that well. Something like Survivor Amazon, or really any season that split the tribes by gender. Heck, Exile Island split the tribes into 4 by age. That's better than the stuff we've got in recent years. Also, observe Survivor Pearl Islands. It reeked of pirates, but they didn't overdo it at all. Also, seasons can just have small twists instead of overarching themes. As abysmal as Survivor Thailand was, the recurring theme of respect the elders is nice, considering Jan and Jake, the oldest 2 contestants on the season, both made it to the final 6. Comment below if you disagree. This is just how I think themes should be executed on the show. Like I stated previously, more recently, it feels like the scenery never changes when it comes to location. These days, the producers probably just throw a dart at a map of Oceania and pick whatever country it lands on. Fiji again? Dang it! But it's more important that you know that this solution for me isn't just in the name of fixing the show, but a personal belief I've raised about the show before I even really got into it. Try having seasons in different biomes. Now, you probably will comment saying, "You idiot, they do film in different biomes," but I mean specifically completely different biomes. For example, take Survivor Amazon and Survivor Tocantins. The locations look fairly similar. I mean, they're both filmed in Brazil, but Amazon was in equatorial rainforest, and Tocantins was in the Brazilian highlands, which is, highlands. Personally, I think it would be cool to have a season set in the Canadian wilderness, or somewhere in maybe Scandinavia, where it's more colder or a tundra climate. Maybe have a season in a desert again. I'm not saying we can't have seasons on island nations again, but get off the pot, Fiji! Like, Madagascar hasn't even had a season filmed there. That's blasphemous. Also, there are so many Oceania nations that have been essentially snubbed for seasons, like the Marshall Islands, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, Kiribati. I could go on, but you get it. For me, at least the constant change in location was one of the things that made Survivor special. Ask yourself, does the Big Brother house always stay the same every season and keep the same room? No! So why should Survivor stay in the same place? real quick, you might have noticed that it's like evening now. I was filming this earlier in the day, but I had to interrupt it to do something. And I didn't come back until the evening, so I don't know why I'm being so secretive about it. I was going to play practice for the spring play at my high school. No big deal. I just didn't want to, I didn't want, I'd have to just film this tomorrow, have to do, like, continuity where the same thing. I'll just film it later tonight. And so that's what I'm doing. Anyways, moving on to solution number 3. The difference 4 contestants make. I don't know, this one is hard to explain. 16 contestants, it just works. It feels a bit more balanced than 20, which sounds ridiculous because 20 and 16 are both even numbers, so numbers that can have a 50-50 male to female ratio. I don't even know what else to say. Just please bring the competitor number back to 16. I know it's not like crazy and there's not as many competitors, but I mean, 16 is still a lot. And it still feels like a long season, even though there's 4 less people. I don't know. Much like the corresponding grievance, this solution is centered around the Fallen Comrades comp and the food auction. For Fallen Comrades, the fix is simple. Journals are already banned from taking on the show, so the only way someone could have an unfair advantage, if you even can call it that, is if they have a photographic memory, and at that point, good for them, This comp did come back for Blood vs. Water, as I said, which wasn't too long ago, so I think there is hope for the return of this show. For the food auction, don't put up idols for sale. Come on, guys. They find them easily on their own already. You don't need to have them in the food auction. It's absolutely asinine. Players tend to pull, like I said, players tend to pull them out of nowhere as it is. You don't need to use this auction as a cover for an idol plug. The food auction, it's always a highlight of the season. I think most people want to see it come back, and it's just too good, wholesome content to be just diminished by, idols. And I'm just not a very big idol person. I don't like that they brought in idols into Survivor at all. It feels less like a social experiment and more like a game. Which it is a game, and it felt like a game, but it no longer feels like a social experiment really anymore. So there we go. I hope you were listening, Mark Burnett, because I had some good ideas, and that's all the time we have today. I actually kind of have to remember what video I have planned next, because typically I write a bunch of scripts kind of in advance. This one I wrote a few weeks ago, so I believe what we have next, I have yet to start working, even writing on it. I just have kind of the bare bones. What I want to talk about is, it's about music. That's, I guess, what I'm going to say. It's about songs. It's kind of like, there's a video out kind of about backstories to music that I did, like in October, I want to say. So it's kind of like that. It's not about backstories, but it is just kind of the same analysis of songs, but I have a different topic and new songs, which is great. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know what I'm going to say. I'll see you later.